Hi all, I may be the obligatory blockchain thing today, so be gentle. Blockchain. What was the question? Thank you, I'm under time. So I'm here to talk about blockchain specifically in the context of identity and access management. I know many of you are here because of your interest in the identity space. I know many of you are not. So for those of you who are not familiar, IAM is central to our online interactions, whether you know it or not, and in many cases, when it works well, it's invisible to the users, and that's quite by intent. It also tends to make for boring demos. But IAM is by no means a solved problem. There are many approaches, there are many technologies being developed as we speak, and it's a very complex problem, a lot of which is intentionally shielded from the users. There are new architectures, business models, and philosophies all in play, and it's not at all clear where we're going to end up in the future. So blockchain. You've all heard about blockchain, obviously. You may or may not be aware that a lot of identity companies are starting to spring up pretty commonly with some blockchain-oriented approach to solving the identity problem or problems. And it's becoming so ubiquitous that this caused me to scratch my chin a little bit, and seeing so much hype and so much skepticism, both from very credible parts of the world, made me really wonder, is there any there? And is it worth trying to explore this space and try to figure out where the truth lies in between? And the third bullet here I think is really important. Are these an answer to an actual problem, or are they solutions looking for a problem? And that's becoming more apparent as we move along. So why this and why now? We're seeing a lot of influx of information. People are becoming overwhelmed. It's really hard to separate the meat from the chaff. And a lot of vendors are approaching people trying to sell solutions about blockchain technologies. And it's really hard to pick out what's really there and what's not. So the third bullet here is the link to the paper. I really hope that you will go have a look at it. I would really welcome it. It's not a long read. It's probably about 12 pages or so. And we really welcome your feedback on it. And the goal of this is really to provide guidance as you evaluate blockchain-based identity solutions as they come along, and more will be coming along all along. So if you step back and look at the foundations of the blockchain coming from the cryptocurrency space, Bitcoin obviously, I'm sure everybody knows something about it or at least has heard about it. When you look at what the fundamental problem it was trying to solve, it was trying to exchange things of value without intermediaries and without trust. And if that rings alarm bells for you, it should, because that's fundamentally at odds with what we're trying to do with the enterprise identity management space. And the needs are really different when you look at what we're trying to do in terms of trust. And trust turns out to be the critical infrastructure here that really separates what works and what doesn't. So that being said, I don't want to be completely dismissive of it. There are new technologies coming along that show some interesting promise. There's one I would point you to called verifiable claims being developed in the W3C that shows some really interesting potential, and I would urge you to go have a look at that when you can. So getting to the punchline, it's clear that blockchain technologies, not surprisingly, are a work in progress and will be for quite some time. And we really have come to find that the general security properties of the blockchain are fundamentally at odds and not a good fit with those of enterprise identity and access management. And I stress enterprise because the higher risk use cases is where this really comes into play and where it really makes a difference. For low risk use cases, it's not that big of a deal, and there might be some very useful things there. So fundamentally, as with many things, take a look at the problem you're trying to solve. Don't be blinded by the hype. Take a look at what really the blockchain-oriented solutions offer you, and does it really make sense, or is it really blockchain for the sake of blockchain? And I'm sorry to say I'm seeing a lot of that. So a quick plug for my co-author, Steve Wilson, is a really excellent fellow, and I highly commend him to you. I hope you have a chance to go look at his website. He's done some really excellent work and continues to, based in Sydney. And lastly, I'll leave you with this. This is just one example of many a growing number of articles that are coming out in the world expressing some very informed skepticism. So I urge you to look at that. And once again, thank you.